Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. It's April 5th, and on this day in 1915, the boxer Jack Johnson was finally beaten. Now, that's not to say that Johnson never lost a fight before this day. His official record has 11 defeats, but since becoming the heavyweight champion in 1908, he had taken on all comers and he had won them all. Most of the fighters he faced in that span were white men, wanting to prove that a white man was better than the black man. In fact, in a fight I'll talk about a few months from now was the original fight of the century in 1910. When Johnson beat James J. Jeffries in that fight, it set off riots around the country because white dreams of finding a great white hope to defeat the black Jack Johnson had been dashed. It's estimated that at least 20 people died in the nationwide violence that ensued after that fight. But back to this fight nearly 5 years later. The Great White Hope had been pinned to the chest of Kansas farmhand Jess Willard. Willard was much bigger at 6 feet 6 inches tall, 250 pounds. Johnson was 6 feet even. The fight was held in Havana, Cuba, with a crowd of about 27,000 people there to watch a scheduled 45-round fight. Willard had one strategy to play, and that was to stay on his feet and let Johnson punch himself out in the Havana heat. Reports from the fight say that Johnson punched Willard relentlessly for the first 20 rounds, but Willard still answered the bell to start each subsequent round. But the 37-year-old Johnson started to tire and stopped connecting with any power, and at that point, Willard started landing punches. Finally, in the 26th round, Willard connected a left jab to the midsection and then a roundhouse right to the jaw to put Johnson on the mat for the count. It was the last title fight for Jack Johnson. He announced his retirement after this fight, but he did come back and fight professionally until 1938, when he fought his last fight at the age of 60. Also on this day in 1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sank one of his patented skyhooks in a game against Utah. That bucket gave him 31,421 points for his career, passing Wilt Chamberlain to become the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. Kareem was 36 years old at the time, but it took Kareem 121 more games to surpass Wilt on the all-time list. Kareem played another 5 seasons and retired with 38,387 points. He held that record until February 2023, when LeBron James passed him on that list. And since we mentioned Wilt and records, on this day in 1967, he scored 20 and grabbed a playoff record 41 rebounds in a 115-104 win over Boston. Interesting fact, Wilt also has the record for rebounds in any NBA game with 55, also against the Celtics. In 2005, the Baylor Lady Bears beat Michigan State 84-62 to win the national championship. In the process, Kim Mulkey became the first women's basketball coach to win a championship as both a player and a coach. And in 1976, dunking a basketball in both college and high school games was legalized again after a 9-year ban. And finally, here's today's non-sports Did You Know? In the Star Wars movie The Empire Strikes Back, when Han flies the Millennium Falcon into the asteroid field, well, some of the asteroids are actually potatoes, with an occasional shoe thrown in as well. That's all for today. And hey, if you have a moment and are digging the podcast, how about leaving a 5-star review and a comment? That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for stopping by today, and I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.